All right, everybody, joining me first here on the Phillip Jordan podcast. This is topic number one, and it's got to be the first topic down here in the South, SEC country. Ed Orgeron out at LSU and joining me, a longtime friend of any program I have, colleague, more ways than one. We'll just leave it at that. Brandon Eisenman, you can check out his work over at the LSU Breakdown podcast whenever they decide to record another episode. You can also hear them kind of frequently on the Beyond the Bleachers. They have a awesome new artwork. I really think the guy that made it really should get paid for his work. And of course, you can read everything he writes over at Last Word College Football. He does cover the LSU Tigers. Brandon, good to see you in this format. We see each other quite often, but it's good to have you on the show and talk a little bit about some big news out of Baton Rouge this past weekend.
Yeah, good to be back on the show, Phillip. Normally when we talk about LSU, we're either previewing a game or something. This is a little bit different, so let's have at it.
Yeah, Ed Orgeron is parting ways. Kind of interesting deal, though. It's not one of the things where he's going to be gone. There's not going to be an interim coach. He's still going to coach the rest of the way. Apparently he's still recruiting for the university, which, how's that working with recruits? I don't know. I mean, how you going to say, come to LSU? I'm not going to be here, but please come to this university, which I know Coach O is LSU through and through, but this seems like a deal. Look, the wins and losses have not been good since they won the national championship 2019. Arguably, people, we can have that debate a later time. The greatest or one of the greatest teams of all time, but they're 9-8 since that moment. They went 5-5 last year. They're 4-3 this year. It seems a lot more than that, though. There's some other off the field stuff with Coach O going on here. Ultimate, Brandon, what went wrong the last 2 years?
Honestly, Phillip, I think it was after the national championship, LSU tried to replicate the offense last year from the season prior when they, went 15-0 and won the title, and it didn't work. They brought in Bo Pelini, and the defense was absolutely historically bad last season. Obviously, that tenure did not last long. He was gone after one season. And then when Dave Aranda left, when Joe Brady left, everything just went downhill. This year hasn't really been much different, but we have seen LSU's defense play a little bit better. LSU finally figured out a way to run the ball effectively, somewhat over the last 2 weeks, but really against last week against Florida. And then just all of the other off-the-field issues, I think that not only Orgeron is dealing with, but what the university is dealing with between the stemming Title IX investigations and all of these new reports that have come out since Sunday, since the news broke that Orgeron would be out at the end of the year. So I think really to put that all into perspective for you, Phillip, I think the fame got to Orgeron, and I feel like his personal life kind of filtered over into his coaching life, and it just took a downward spiral. But the on-the-field stuff, it's really just been LSU trying to replicate that offense and not getting there and being mediocre at best.
And it felt like, just kind of reading some of the stuff, especially at home in the Athletic, they had a really detailed article on just kind of like a timeline on what's happened since the national championship win 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago. And in a way, if you go by that article, and there's been other ones that have mentioned this as well. There's one I was reading earlier on ESPN that other things became more important to Coach O than football.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying a second ago, with his personal life kind of getting into his coaching life. I saw something the other day that said that because he had got divorced after the national championship, and I saw something the other day that said he would bring his girlfriends to practice and that the girlfriend's children would be out there practicing with the team. Okay, that's wrong on so many levels. Like you can't let your personal life get into your coaching life. You got to have these things separate. And not only did the fame get to him, but his outside stuff got to him. And I think it's really taken a toll on him in more ways than one, and really in a bad way, because now that he's about to be out the door in 2 months in Baton Rouge, I mean, things have just gone really, really downhill quickly for that program.
And early in the week, I talked to Coach Max Howell, and we kind of discussed it on the coordinator hires. And I did not realize until this week, or maybe I had just forgot, he didn't even interview Bo Pelini for when he became the defense coordinator for 2020. And, that was a bad hire. I mean, we saw what happened with the defense last year, but this year's, defense, I mean, they've been better, but not greatly better. I mean, because most of the year you've been able to run on LSU. And the frustrating, I think, has got to be for people like yourself that cover and talk about LSU and or the fans as together and people even there inside the athletic facility. LSU is too talented to be this bad. Now, I'm not saying they should be national title contenders. That's not what I'm telling the audience here. But what I'm saying is they shouldn't look this bad on the field at times because the talent is there just from the in-state talent. I mean, they own Louisiana. Look, we're both in the state of Alabama. I'll cover Auburn for college football, and Alabama has Auburn to deal with. Others. Florida has Florida State, Miami, Georgia. No, they don't really have Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech's irrelevant. But you know what I'm saying? There's these other schools. They have in-state teams that work recruiting. LSU doesn't. So there's no excuse for LSU not to be a 9-10 win team consistently every year, just from the in-state talent they can bring in when you do things right. And that's just kind of just what's puzzling to me with this program last 2 years, the way they've looked.
Yeah, it really has. I think recruiting has really taken a turn within the program. And, since this news is broke on Sunday, LSU has lost a commit. I don't know if it's for the 22 or the 23 class. I didn't really look into it to find out, but I know they had a decommit, and then sophomore wide receiver Corey Moore has entered the transfer portal. So they're starting to lose players, and I think that's just going to continue. I think maybe not a lot, but quite a few players will leave or decommit or whatever the case may be. But I've also seen this, and that whoever the next head coach is at LSU will be able to win and recruit immediately. I mean, they have the talent. They're just not utilizing it or being efficient enough on the field to number one games and bringing that top tier team. They're still using talent, Emma and Georgia and Florida and everybody else. But you've got to be able to bring in these recruits, keep them there, but you're about to lose your coach. A lot of them probably about to, bat and go out.
Yeah, and I just popped my head, and it was funny the first game of the year going into the UCLA game when he said, "Come down here in your sissy red, sissy blue shirt." But now when you think about it, that was a good look for Orgeron. There are some things he's done this year too, talking to people, fans, and stuff like that. That's been kind of bad look. I know on his radio show he had an altercation, with somebody caller. You've had instances this year too, so it is, you kind of look if you isolate them. Oh, that's funny. That's just Coach O being Coach O. That's who he is. But then when you put them all together, even before the Kentucky game, obviously, and even last year, you've seen, we're kind of going in circles here, I know, but it just kind of keep just kind of looking at everything. There have been cracks in the foundation.
Yeah, certainly. From the kind you say, and then getting beat, in the first game, not only getting beat, but in the way they got beat, especially on defense. And then the radio show call in, that comment, and just, man, everything else. It's been a whirlwind season for LSU, and it's probably going to continue to go downhill with Orgeron being gone. Maybe some of the players, who knows? Some of them may not want to play anymore. They may not be motivated, but I mean, things are already bad, and I feel like it's just going to continue to get worse until the end of the season.
It's going to be interesting. Talk about the hires now. Me and you have had discussions on who should be the next head coach at LSU. Of course, you cover the team, you talk about them, so it's more of your expertise. I've seen the name Lane Kiffin. Anybody that knows me knows that Lane Kiffin is my favorite coach in college football. I am an absolute fanboy for Lane Kiffin. There's the school I root for. I wish they would hire. I'm not telling you guys who I root for, but you should be able to figure it out. And Brandon, don't you tell that information, which I can edit that out at the end of the conversation so people will not know because this is not a live video. But anyways, now you don't favor Lane Kiffin. And the Jimbo Fisher stuff, I don't think Jimbo's leaving A&M. I don't see that. Mel Tucker has been mentioned. I've told you this too. I think Billy Napier would be a slam dunk hire. I think he's a fantastic coach. But from stuff I've just seen online on Twitter, articles, there's like a superiority complex with LSU with that. They would never want to hire the Louisiana or what was formerly Louisiana Lafayette head coach, which I think is stupid. The guy can coach. But for you, when you see the list of names, who do you think is realistic for LSU? And who do you think of the names you've seen so far would probably be the right guy to kind of take what they had in 19 under Orgeron and kind of bring – you're not going to have that again, but bring this team back to an SEC West contender, and then potentially a playoff contender.
Yeah, Phillip, you mentioned Mel Tucker, and I like the name Mel Tucker a lot. He's a head coach of Michigan State. But the only problem I have with Tucker is that he's not really established as a head coach yet. I mean, he's got him, 6-0, 7-0 right now. And depending on how Michigan State finishes, look, LSU can offer any of these coaches that I'm about to list off a ton of money, and they'll probably come. I like Tucker, but I don't know that he ends up in Baton Rouge. Another guy, if I was the athletic director at LSU, I would give a look to James Franklin at Penn State. Now, LSU's going to have to battle with Southern Cal for him. If they can win that battle, that would be that. I think in my mind, that would be my home run hire. That's a really good hire. I would also throw in Billy Napier, but like you said, I don't think that's going to really happen. I would also throw in Jamie Chadwell from Coastal Carolina and Luke Fickell from Cincinnati, and maybe even a guy like Bill O'Brien. I'm not too big on him, but look, man, Saban's got a knack of, taking former college and professional head coaches, getting them back on their feet, and then they go off elsewhere. So those are kind of my 4 or 5 guys that I would look at if I was Scott Woodward.
Well, I mean, you're looking at Nick Saban there. That's the rehabilitation clinic he has up there with coaches, what he does there. Jamie Chadwell's a good one. With Fickell, my only thing with him, and this is just me because his history with Ohio State and then being at Cincinnati, I kind of feel like he's a Midwest Big Ten guy, more than likely. Of course, Ryan Day's not going anywhere anytime soon at Ohio State. You would think, okay, he could jump into that, but that's not going to happen. I'm not saying he couldn't see it. And then you look at Mel Tucker. It wouldn't be the first time LSU went and got the Michigan State coach. Nick Saban, that's where he was at before he went to LSU. So it's all interesting. I'm still on the Billy Napier thing. And, I was about to tell you this joke off air, and I'm going to save it. I'm going to do it now because I'm going to jump back on Orgeron real quickly. So one of the big things is he got, divorced after the national championship. So obviously the stuff with the women coming around and photos of him and women, hitting on married women, stuff like that. What does he say to these women? I know he's got lots of money, so that's got to be part of it. But one, what is he saying other than go Tigers? And number 2, how are they understanding anything he is saying when he propositions women? Now, this is a family show, so I'm not going to get anything, obscene or anything. But I'm just saying, I give the man props because we can't understand him when we watch him on TV talk. I've already made the joke plenty of times that the assistant coach has got to be like, what did he just say? But I'm just saying, when he's in these bars or wherever he meets these women, how are they understanding what he's saying? And what is he saying other than go Tigers? That's my point.
Honestly, Phillip, I couldn't be the person to tell you. Look, I'm not from Louisiana. I cover LSU.
I got that gumbo. I'm gonna go Tigers.
But like when Orgeron's talking at a press conference or on TV, like during a game or after a game, whatever, I can understand about 90% of what he says. Some of it gets jumbled in there, but really the only thing people hear is at the end of whatever he says, it's always go Tigers. That's all they hear. As for the women that he talks to, I have no idea. That's not for me to answer, but good question.
That just popped in my head today. I was like, how are they understanding what he's saying? That's, that's just my point, anyways. So we've done talk about that. Well, we do need to talk about this LSU real quick, just for a few minutes here, and then I'll let you go. So they have 4 wins on the year. Now, you always want to go to a bowl game. That's kind of it. So they have 5 games left, and I'm looking at the schedule right in front of me. They play this week against number 12 Ole Miss at Ole Miss, but there has been talk Matt Corral injury issues. If he doesn't play, I think that's a great opportunity for LSU to get that 5th win. Now they have Monroe on the schedule; they should win that. Then you've got at Alabama on the 6th. Then you have Arkansas coming in on the 13th, and then you have A&M to close the year out on the 27th. So for LSU to get bowl eligible, we're just going to put Monroe in as a win. They have 5 wins on the thing. Where is the wins on the rest of their schedule?
Phillip, based off, and this is just early week assumption here. Let's say Matt Corral doesn't play. All right, there's really 2 scenarios here, and I'll just go through them quickly. Either LSU wins that game in good fashion, or Lane Kiffin decides to put John Rice Plumlee in at quarterback, and he torches them like he did 2 years ago, and LSU gets dominated. I think if Corral's out, though, LSU wins that game. So that'll be 6, potentially. And then depending on how good Arkansas is playing in November, I think that's a favorable game for LSU, too. The defense has been playing better. The offense is still clicking, even with Butte out. They've been running the ball better. So realistically, I think LSU can finish 7-5, but it wouldn't surprise me if they somehow go 6-6 or 5-7.
Let's see. I mean, that Monroe game, they got to go up against old Terry Bowden.
It's going to be such a tough game.
Let's see. And I'll say this: whoever does come in, especially if it's an offensive coach, and that's where I lean with Lane Kiffin. But we didn't have that conversation, so I'm not going to bring it up again. You got a good quarterback in Max Johnson. He'll be going into his 3rd year if he stays. And I know there's people there that are excited about the future of what Garrett Nussmeier can bring. So I will look at that. And then, Davis Price at running back. He played well against Florida. I mean, that was a big win. And now a lot of pressure is on Florida now with Dan Mullen. And they got to get rid of Grantham. But I had that discussion with Coach Howell earlier in the week. But my whole thing here, too, is to kind of close up our conversation. You have a good quarterback in Max Johnson. This team has some talent. Whoever comes in as head coach, the cupboard will not be bare. You should be able to be highly competitive. This is not a true rebuild because there's talent there. This is not like Vanderbilt or South Carolina with their new coaches. It's not the same deal. I kind of compare it to Auburn with Harsin. He was coming to a situation with talent. LSU the same way. There's talent there, so it's not like rebuilding from the ground up. You've got some foundational pieces there. You just need to clean up. Especially, I really think the defense side of the ball. Whoever comes in really just need to clean up what's happening on the defensive side of the ball. Offense should take care of itself.
Yeah, I think so. And you spoke about Max Johnson, but Phillip, Miles Brennan is still there unless he decides to leave too. I mean, he could end up leaving, but. I mean, next year
on his 10th. He's on his 10th year with the program.
It seems like it. It really does. But I think next year LSU will be competitive, no matter who the head coach is. I mean, like you said, Phillip, they've got the talent. You fix the defensive side of the ball. I mean, I think LSU set up for success if they can fix the defensive side of the ball with those issues next year.
We'll see what happens. It's going to be fun. You have a coaching search to cover. I did it last year with Auburn with Brian Harsin, which it was at the end of the year. You've got the whole rest of the season to do it, so it's going to be interesting. And I said we do 15. We're at 18 minutes now. But Brandon, tell the listeners and the viewers who are watching the video, all 5 of you, tell them where they can find you and all the work you're doing and all the podcasts you are not doing.
So you can find me on Twitter at Heisman Eisman. You can find my I don't even know what to call it, maybe once every blue moon LSU breakdown podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, where else is it? I don't even know. Spreaker.com, I think. You can also find me on the Bleachers on Facebook Live, typically on Thursday nights, but may have to do it on Wednesday this week. And then that one's also on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well. You can find all my LSU work over at lastwordoncollegefootball.com. And if you're in the Wiregrass area, you can find all my scouting work over at Prep Red Zone.
All right, sounds good, Brandon. Appreciate the time, and I'm sure when LSU has a coach, I'll be hitting you up once again, and look forward to doing this sometime again down the road.
Yeah, sounds good.